Welcome to another episode of Connect First. I'm Command Sergeant Major Shawn Carns, the 1st Corps Command Sergeant Major, and your host for Connect First. And today we're going to talk about H2F, Holistic Health and Fitness. And we just don't have one, but three special guests today that are going to introduce themselves. So please introduce yourselves and what job you do here at JBLM.
Thank you, Sergeant Major. My name is Master Sergeant Henley. I work in the G4 office, but I also serve as the Corps H2F lead.
I'm First Lieutenant Kushak. I'm with the HHBN S4 OIC, and I'm 1st Corps' primary UMO.
Okay.
Sergeant Major, thanks for having me. My name is Brian Hattler. I'm the H2F Program Director for 42nd MP Brigade.
Awesome. So let's, kind of just open it up and talk about H2F. And if you all can, talk about what are the 5 pillars and how we are incorporating them 5 pillars into helping our soldiers in the different facilities or H2F facilities we have.
Just throw it out there.
Yes,
I'll give you one.
Out there.
Physical.
Yep.
So, several pillars, right? 5 of them in total. Starting with physical, and we get after that in different ways. One is just in our traditional physical training, but then also taking care of physical injuries, that may occur, with our team. I'll grab another one being nutrition, and helping us get after, what I would call like performance level nutrition. So for folks that are performing at a high level, using nutrition tips and tricks to help them perform at a higher level. And then of course, if folks are struggling with their nutritional habits, getting that kind of right size. So those are my 2. There's 3.
That's you 2. So you get the other 3.
Yeah. So I'll take sleep readiness, and sleep readiness is it's essential and important, just like the other pillars. And the primary goal there is to ensure soldiers fully understand the importance of sleep, and sleep readiness and how it relates to their performance over time, not just for an isolated or singular event, but helping soldiers understand also how it helps them and their body recover. Their bodies needing proper sleep, for brain function and brain recovery as well. And then I'll take one more. Mental readiness, I'll leave you with one.
Oh.
So we have mental readiness, and mental readiness there as well. We have cognitive performance specialists to assist soldiers, because oftentimes, soldiers are going to find themselves in different environments, with different, complex and very strenuous and stressful tasks. So having a good mental space and being able to have a good, clear mental capacity, helps our soldiers, in just everyday life, on and off the battlefield.
Mm-hmm.
And really to finish off the 5 pillars, the last one is going to be spiritual. I think that one's like a great incorporating thing. It brings in the spiritual aspect, which I think previously soldiers really did not get that outside of just seeing a chaplain or some type of religious affairs individual. This isn't just where it's just aspect, go see the chaplain, go see that. We're trying to go incorporate the 5 pillars all together, with spiritual really giving soldiers that other avenues of approach to take after their mental health. It's all correlated, and really the chaplain can offer that, for example, or any other really religious affairs, because that is a big pillar on how a soldier will not only be readiness. That I think the big thing to take out of this is these 5 pillars at the end of the day are relating to soldier readiness. That's the biggest thing I think we need to get out of the 5 pillars, how they all correlate to soldier readiness, unit performance, and being ready to answer the call at any moment.
Oh man, because everything we do is about our people,
Absolutely.
right? And these 5 pillars, the interesting is they all go together, right? You got to understand them all, because they all work together to help you as a soldier, right? And very interesting ones you talk about spiritual readiness, right? And the way, because everyone thinks religion. Automatically when I say spiritual, they think religion, right? But it's really about the mind and being mindfulness, and so understanding your mind is very important, and there's a lot that goes into that. I'll give you one. Whenever you're getting ready to do something, say you're going into an office to speak to your boss, and it might end up in a conflict, right? Not a fist fight, but he or she might disagree with you. Guess what? You're automatically self-talking yourself in your brain, automatically. And that's where, I think part of it, now there's a lot more goes into it, but that mindfulness can really help understand that mind and to help get your thoughts and get rid of that self-talk, or turn that self-talk into positivity instead of negativity. Very important.
For sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, what all in, the facility, and then what all have you experienced with either the 5 pillars or talking about the spiritual readiness? What have you all seen as soldiers are coming into the H2F program?
So I think the biggest misconception is when people think of holistic health and fitness is it's what they see is they see a gym or they see a facility and it's all about the physical portion. That's the biggest misconception is there's the 5 pillars which really make up H2F. That's the biggest misunderstanding is, yes, the physical portion is there. That's a big factor to eliminate injuries, make soldiers stronger. It's all that. But as a whole, we're looking at all the pillars to make sure that soldier has all the right resources. And ultimately, they have those resources given to them and not just relying on outside resources, because now it's all incorporated into one really binding factor.
Yeah, so you're exactly right about that, right? Because that is, as I went around talking to people, and probably you have all too, is they think physical automatically. Whether or not they don't know the whole 5 pillars or don't understand how all them 5 pillars go together, it's just not the physical part of it, right? As we talk about temporary profiles, permanent profiles, and that's what we think about when we think about H2F, but there's a lot more goes into that to be able to use that. So what have you, Master Sergeant Henley or Brian, what have you all seen, with soldiers and using the H2F or H2F facilities?
I think for us, the analogy that I use that seems to resonate with a lot of soldiers is just kind of comparing themselves to an automobile, right? If I've got a Porsche that's got and it's running bad gasoline, or if it's a Porsche with this great engine and good gasoline but the tires stink, it's going nowhere, right? And so to get back to Lieutenant Kuziak's point about just kind of having that like physical bias, it's very similar for human beings. We're all super complex and we're made up of a lot of different parts, and it's certainly not just a muscle, right? And so we know there's a connection between the different domains, and that they can be mutually beneficial, right? So if I've got physical goals and I'm trying to get after a physical test of some sort, well, I know that if I'm in great shape to start with, maybe the first thing I should be looking at is my nutrition or maybe my sleep, because those things can affect my physical capacities just as much as anything. And then the one other thing I would say is, like, for us, one of the great benefits that we've had, getting a facility, to really operate out of, has been the ability to have all 5 of the domains really represented out of that facility. So, yeah, we do work out of a gym, but if you go from cubicle to cubicle in that gym, you'll find that you'll talk to a dietitian or a cognitive performance specialist, or any number of other folks on my team, and strength coaches are a part of that team, but having all those people under the same roof, I think, really goes a long ways to reinforce the value of kind of that multidisciplinary sort of approach when it comes to taking care of soldiers.
Oh man, and that's a great analogy, and I'll give you one too. Is you look at golfers, some of the good golfers, Tiger Woods, Phil Mickelson, I can go on. They look at the holistic health fitness too, right? And people don't realize that. People don't realize, that, hey, they're in the gym physically. They have to watch their nutrition, right? Because obviously they have to walk 18 holes every week. They're walking 36 holes, right? And then, mindfulness is huge, right? So if I have one bad swing, you don't ruin the rest of the game, right? So they go through that mindfulness. I mean, they have coaches that help them out with mindfulness too. stuff. So it's very interesting that they use the pillars too. And they have to get sleep, right? Type of deal. So they're using that, but people don't realize it. Just like you said about the pours, right? People don't understand that it all kind of goes together. Right. What are some of your experiences there, Master?
Some of mine are major. I've experienced a lot of positive responses in soldiers, and to Brian's point of the facility portion in soldiers. Integration and onboarding to their units and their organizations and even installations, so having the H2F facilities and having all of those performance specialists, under one, centralized location where soldiers can go to. I've seen a lot of positive responses where it's improved their transition, in whether, they're single soldiers or they're married soldiers with kids or, whatever the case may be. But I've seen a lot of positive responses and trends there. And a lot of soldiers have recognized, like to Lieutenant Kuziak's point is that, hey, H2F is not just about physical, even though a lot, people may have that natural bias there, but they start to understand that there's so much more to human performance, than just the physical. And having those, performance specialists right there readily available, every single day, I think it's also provided a different cultural response, to our current generation where they see like, hey, we're serious about, people first, and taking care of our greatest assets.
Oh, man. And so I'll go to you first, then to Lieutenant, and then Brian. And you talked about onboarding, right? And we say integration. So, we have a reception center. We receive them and take care of them. We talk a little bit about H2F, but when they get integrated in the unit, right, that is where you become a part of a program of your unit, right? Yes. So please tell me, as Specialist Carns, Private Carns comes to you as their leader, right, what are you doing and how are you helping integrating me into the H2F program? And then we'll go around the horn.
Okay. Well, what we would do is, bring them in, kind of, do an assessment, baseline, get to know them, their background, their history, just, to gather some basic information, some data points, and then we'll take them through, pretty much an assessment, see if there's any services that they may need up front, as they're just coming on board, to the organization, and then provide, further touch points from there. But it's, really to, make it, relational, where they can understand like, hey, you're not just a number, you're not just any other person, right? You're a true, asset. You're a member of the team, and we're going to show you that, and help you walk through the process.
Good, sir.
So the biggest aspect we found at HHBN was really, we try to push it out to the command teams. The command teams, the leaders, the upfront, we can't reach every individual soldier on an individual aspect, but when we get to the command teams, we try to push this information out there, educate first the leaders, and then they pass it down to really PFC, Schmuckatelli, whoever it may be, so they get these resources. And then they coordinate up to really get the resources they could get at H2F. And when the command teams work with us, they've been seeing the great outcomes that come from H2F. It's a surprise. They didn't know what they can provide, the nutritional aspects, the sleep readiness. And then I've personally gotten some really great feedback recently was soldiers didn't know their own capabilities. So they like, I don't like fitness, or I'm not good at this, or I'm not good at that. And then they start working, they get a few group sessions in. It's been kind of nice to see a few individual soldiers then ask for individual help to not only improve themselves, which is the greatest aspect, they're trying to improve themselves, their career, and then the whole, I just tie it all into, it's individual but unit readiness, which is great to see. And I think the biggest aspect, the biggest positive we got from H2F is, it's interesting, it's new. We're adapting to what the soldiers are asking really, and it's not the old, let's go run 5 miles. We're gonna go run again, another brigade run. And that's the greatest thing I think we get out of this is, sure, we all love those motivating runs, but getting a good workout in like that with H2F, or seeing the soldiers, the opportunities they have as those 5 pillars apply, I think they get a lot more out of it than another 5-mile run.
Well, if I can add to that before
course.
we go to Dr. Hadler, is what a lot of soldiers and leaders fail to realize is that under the 5 pillars and even under, you know, our approach, you know, with H2F, we don't just target 1 or 2, you know, physical, you know, capacities, you know, components of fitness, I should say, right? So, you know, the coaches do an excellent job, you know, with the oversight of their directors in, you know, developing training regimens, you know, that are across the entire spectrum. So that's why we're seeing a lot better response, you know, to our approach to training, because now we're training more components of physical fitness. As back in the day when we just go on a 5-mile run, you know, how many components of fitness are we regularly targeting, you know? So, and there's a lot of wear and tear, you know, and I know that probably be a talking point today, you know, musculoskeletal injuries, you know, so, and different things of that sort, so.
Well, that's a lot for Brian to take in and to add to, but please, because you're the facility, right?
Yes.
And you have the coaches, so please add on to that.
Sure. So our approach with kind of the onboarding or the integration process is that we want to catch soldiers early in the game. And so one of our primary goals is we know that there's times where we have to be reactive in nature, where people will reach crisis mode and we have to be reactive to that. And we can help with certain situations there for sure. But our goal is to try to get ahead of crisis mode. And so our approach to that is, as soldiers are onboarded, you know, specifically with the 42nd MP Brigade and then some of our partnered units as well now, our approach is to have them come to our facility, and we have the new soldiers go through, you know, a battery of, it's kind of, you know, a broad examination of themselves, right? So, you know, they'll meet with the dietitian, they'll do an in-body, you know, measurement of body composition analysis. They'll meet with some of our cognitive folks and identify issues, you know, that they may have there. The chaplain is oftentimes a part of that process. We have our athletic trainers do a review of their medical record and talk to them about previous injuries. And then we do a bit of a physical assessment too. And so our goal is to help identify, you know, challenges that they may have, you know, when they're showing up on, you know, within that first month of being with the unit, and hopefully get them connected with professionals that can help them get after their challenges before they become full-on crises. And, you know, our team spends a lot of times identifying the fact that, like, we do know that we have to work with folks when they're struggling at times. That's part of what we do. But we also want to make sure that we're hitting, you know, the mid-level and the high-level performers that exist in the military and help those individuals, you know, elevate their game that extra 2 or 3%, which can be, you know, pretty profound for them as well.
Of course. And you all do a great job, by the way, because I've come over and went through the program, so I do appreciate it. So starting with Brian, and then we'll work our way around here. Obviously, when they come see you, you do the assessment, right? But that's a day or an hour or whatever, right? What training do you all do? Because the rest of that day, guess what? They're with the leaders, right? So what training do you all do to help the leaders care for that soldier when they're not with you in the facility?
Right. That's a great question, Sergeant Major. So one of our goals and one of the things that we see as potentially leading to the greatest level of success is if we really get integrated within the unit to that level, where we have leaders that understand the principles of H2F, that they don't necessarily rely upon a civilian expert, you know, to influence those principles, but they're competent enough where they're able to kind of share the knowledge, you know, and the wisdom with soldiers that are under their supervision. And so there's a few different ways that we do that. So, you know, one way that we try to really, you know, spin up those leaders is through educational programs of their own. So we run like an H2F extender, you know, course. And the purpose of that is, you know, it can be anywhere, for us it can be anywhere from a 3 to 5 day course. Our goals are to educate, you know, oftentimes those mid-grade leaders about the principles, and then also to introduce them to our team and have them get to know our team a little more intimately, right? And so then, those soldiers can return, those mid-grade leaders, whether they're young officers or NCOs, they return to the formation. They're able to coach people up independently, but they also know, hey, and maybe this nutritional issue is now beyond my scope. Well, guess what? I'm well connected with the dietitian over there with the MP Brigade, and I know and I trust him, and let me get you connected to this guy or this gal that I know can help you. So those are the primary ways. I guess the one other thing that I would throw into that is, we are starting to lean forward in more kind of leadership development, sorts of educational approaches. Our brigade commander, has an agenda, to help develop his leaders, and we're very closely tied into him and his goals. And the agenda is always his, but we are there to help support that and bring an extra level of professional knowledge.
Sure. And then from your level, as either getting the training or being the overall leaders of an organization of H2F, how are you incorporating that training or making sure your leaders are trained in H2F in the organization?
So quick and really short and simple, the biggest way we do it, like first and foremost, the key program directors of, let's say, H2F or HHBN, we've coordinated with Dr. Hetler and his team, really gotten the resources we're able to provide and their team's able to provide. As Dr. Hetler said, it's really comes down to we provide the information, we try to educate the soldiers, the leaders. Really, it's the mid-level leaders who can execute this the best. They show their soldiers this is what is available. They can coordinate it through us. So I can speak specific on HHBN. We've coordinated a few training sessions, or whether it's on Foundational Readiness Day, which is a great time to utilize this, as we're doing some nutritional classes, some basic dietitian classes. And from that, we've already gotten a soldier reach out. They wanted more individual one-on-one progress. And that's really what we're looking for, is we provide the resources, what is available. And I think from what I've noticed is once they become invested, because they see what is available to them, those mid-level leaders kind of wander off, and then they do the actual work themselves, whether to implement a program into their formations. They'll talk to one of the, like, let's say, athletic trainers. Hey, how can we improve our physical readiness program? They work with the athletic trainers. They tidy up the little knot strings and all around there. And then that becomes a lot more competitive, a lot more, I guess, beneficial to not 5 soldiers, but now they take that knowledge back and it benefits hundreds of soldiers. That's the biggest thing I think we know, is providing that information, spreading the wealth of knowledge, and not relying on just a few individuals. Those people get that information and we just keep spreading the wealth.
Wow.
That's good. One thing I do, Sergeant Major, is through the Master Fitness Trainer community, because they are embedded in all our formations, is I leverage their knowledge, their expertise, and their ability within their formations to be essentially like strength and conditioning coach extensions, extensions of the coaches, per se. But also to, try to help provide some guidance and some mentorship and leader development for them to help advise their command teams at echelon, because we have them at, from company to battalion to brigade level, and they're there to serve, some crucial purposes, and Dr. Hatler alluded to it, in terms of their approach with the leadership development, because what happens is there's only so many master fitness trainers out there, but how are we reaching this to the squad leader level, to majority of the non-commissioned officer corps, right? Because our soldiers, they have to have this leadership embedded, so no matter what environment they're in, they're able to go and be successful. So I think one approach is strengthening the partnership and the relationship between the master fitness trainers and their H2F teams, as well as their command teams, and then just ensuring that they understand the relationship, and then how to maximize on both sides, how they can work with the H2F team, but at the same time provide valuable insight, guidance, and recommendations, and advice to their command teams, to help improve, their leader education and development.
Oh man, I appreciate, some great information here today, especially for the audience on H2F and what it's about. And we've got to, as a team, all of us, continue to spread what H2F does down to the formations, down to that lowest level, to help out just not individual, but help the leaders take care of their soldiers whenever they're not in the facility with Brian over here. So again, I appreciate each and every one of you coming on here and giving your experience and your knowledge on H2F is going to be very beneficial for our audience. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. And this concludes another episode of Connect First. Thank you very much for tuning in.
Hey, thanks for tuning in to Connect First podcast, where we discuss leadership at its core. You can find Connect First on all your major podcast streaming platforms. Follow First Corps on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for information on upcoming episodes, as well as all things First Corps. Rate, review, and subscribe to us on YouTube and click that notification bell so you'll know exactly when we drop a new episode. Till next time.